Alrighty, folks, we need to have a real in-depth conversation. Almost a warning, maybe breaking news. Did you know that foreclosures are up 500%? Yes, since Q4 of 2021 until Q4 of 2025. It is a factual and, dare I say, alarming statistic that foreclosures are up 500%. Lance, you are housing. You got to tell us, man, what's going on with these foreclosures? The next great financial crisis must be among us because foreclosures are up 500%. What say you, Lance?
Yeah, so when the COVID-19 lockdowns occurred, the federal government had done a bunch of nationwide foreclosure protections to really prevent that, big economic shock from the lockdowns from pushing a lot of people into foreclosure. So there was the forbearance programs that they had almost pretty much stopped foreclosures. And at the same time, of course, house prices were ripping a ton. 2021 saw nationally aggregated home prices up 21%. So it's kind of hard to foreclose.
Do you know how funny that is? Home prices in a year to be up 20% nationally? That's crazy.
Wild. And so in Q4 of 2019, there was around just over 71,000 foreclosures. By Q4 2021, it was just under 9,000 for the entire country in that quarter. This is a big country. That's a very small number. And
that's a very small number.
And so from Q4 of 2019 to Q4 21, foreclosures fell 88%. Wow. So pretty much for every 10 foreclosures that were occurring pre-pandemic levels, you were having one, maybe two occur at the end of 2021. Now, since then, foreclosures have come back into the market. A lot of those protections have been pulled back. The economy has normalized. And every year we've been seeing foreclosures inch up a little bit. So Q4 22, we had 34,000. Q4 2021, we had 40,000. Q4 2024, we had 41,000. And then Q4 2025, we had 58,000. So the 58,000 is 500% greater than the just under 9,000 in Q4 2021. But we're still 18% below 2019 levels of foreclosures. And it's not like 2019 was a high level of foreclosures. It was actually, it had been drifting down for many, many years. And I don't know if you can see my screen.
We're going to bring that up right now because, again, this is one thing. I love talking numbers, but when you can put it in a visual like this graph, it should be eye-opening to folks that we are not repeating the GFC, even though we're up 500%.
Can they see the screen?
Yes, they can. I'm sorry, I had it up. My bad. Yes.
Yes. And so in Q4 2008, you had just over 400,000 foreclosures.
Yeah.
In Q4 2025, you're around 58,000. And so we're drifting up. We're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. Not quite there. It's not a big lift up. It's slowly grinding back up. We have had a few things like, the VA had a hold on foreclosures and now those have come back. So some things like that, saw a bit of a pickup early 2025, but it's still only.
Can you stay on that graph because I want to tie this to a story that I have on the channel. Folks on this channel, you've heard me talk multiple times about people like if when you were a kid and you were outside, at least at my age, we had a garden hose. And what we would do with the garden hose when it was on is we would grip it and we would close it, right? We would crimp it with our hand. And that is what looks like on this chart from 2020 to 2021, that very low period. But remember what happens once you let that crimp go, a lot of stuff will come flying out of the system. And I think that's what we're experiencing now. But the water will regulate. So what appears to be rapid 500% growth is just us getting rid of junk. Foreclosures should have happened, and they didn't. So we had junk sitting in the system for 6 quarters, and that's part of the reason why we're seeing this jump now. But to your point, that will regulate. And there's a very good chance by the end of this year, we are still not back to 2019 levels.
Can you see the screenshot that I just took?
No, I can't. I'm still looking at the same bar chart. I did hear a click, but I can't see what you're looking
You can't
at.
see it right now? Oh, I was trying to do some doodles to show like the insane amount. So if you look down here, right, there's foreclosures that should have happened that didn't happen. And so as we move up, it's very possible that we go above 2019 levels at some point, given that there was just some in the system that didn't occur.
Correct.
We'll have to see. Right now it's been a very slow grind up, but let's look at the forward-looking data for a second.
Yes,
the question is, where do we go heading forward for 26, 27? And before it gets to a foreclosure, you're going to go through the 90-day delinquency.
Correct.
And for the 90-day delinquency, that chart, and let me pull it up here. Here's a look at it. You can see that credit cards are kind of high, right? That bottom consumer has kind of been pinched. Student loans have swung back now that people are actually having to pay them and they're getting reported to the credit agencies. Even auto, right? There's some distress there, right? That bottom.
No doubt. Yep.
But look at mortgage and HELOC.
It's not there.
Way down. And we are drifting up slowly for it. So at the bottom, Q4 2021, it was 0.4%. And pre-pandemic, it was 1.07.
That number that you just highlighted, the Q4 of 2019, that's the number the average person should look at, because that was the last normal housing market before the pandemic.
Yes.
So any number below that should not be concerning.
And so for us to get to normalized levels of foreclosures back to 2019 levels, we first need to get this number above this number back to
correct.
This. So we're not even there yet for this one. We will. It's going to get back closer to it. It's drifting up. But for the foreclosures, we first got to get this one back first to get back to pre-pandemic levels for foreclosures. Now, on the credit side, one of the things that's notable is that last year, when the credit agency started to report again the delinquencies on student loans, the super prime borrowers, not the subprime. So super prime is people above 760, right? These are the actual home buyers, right? Their credit scores on average for those who had this unpaid student loans, on average, they took a hit of 171.
Damn, they went to 500. Oish.
Big hit. Now, I believe that can recover quickly if they start paying it. I don't come from that side of the economy, but I've heard that it doesn't take as long as some people might think for them to get back. But I do think that in 25 and in 26, this has probably pulled off some borrowers.
No doubt.
Probably more so for auto, for cars, but probably some for homes too. Now, before you get to a 90-day delinquency, you're a 30-day delinquency.
Okay.
So when we look there, we are above pre-pandemic levels.
There we go. Okay.
Housing. So at the bottom, at the biggest part of the overheating, we have all these protections. Only 1.57 were 30-day delinquent or transitioning to 30-day delinquent. Now we're up to 3.85. That is above the 3.5 in 2019.
Excellent point.
It's the same where we were in 2015 when the economy was recovering, but it's still really far below, let's say, the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% for mortgage back in 8, 9. The student loans just keep stealing all the charts. It's hard to even look at the mortgage because the loan number.
But the red one there, that's exactly the garden hose. You just crimp it, you hold it off, you don't process anybody, and then boom, you open it up and shoots higher.
Exactly. We weren't living. We took a debt class and kind of didn't treat it like a normal debt for a few years. And then this is what occurs. Now, if you look here, you will see, mortgage is normalized back to 2019 levels. HELOC is pretty much normalized to 2019 levels. But credit card and auto are above, right? You can see more of that bottom third of the consumer And when you go through the data right now, you're seeing that bottom consumer and a number of different data points just being, being more pinched. Now, I think for your type of buyer, right, that's created some, for that type of investor, right?
Yeah.
They're competing with them, right? And the rentals that they're buying. That's created some relief and potentially even buying opportunities in some of these markets. Because when the rate shock occurred, initially in many of these markets, the bottom of the market was tighter, right? And it was the top of the market that kind of got, was more pinched. Since then, it's flipped a bit in more of these markets, especially in the Southeast, where there is more of that home building occurring, right? And that, they build a lot of that entry level spec. And in that part of the market, with some of that supply and just that bottom third of the consumer being pinched a little bit more, it's created some opportunities in some of these markets. Now, I think it might vary a bit for like the West. I think the West is still, because they didn't get as much of that supply response, but definitely in the Southeast.
Agreed. I like it. Very cool.
And then now you will hear about FHA mortgages. You are seeing more delinquencies there for FHA. Now, I should point out that FHA is, according to the New York Fed, 12% of the outstanding mortgage debt. Now, if you look at just locks, according to Optimal Blue, it was like closer to 20%. So I'm still kind of figuring out what are the best numbers for it. But
this is another chart that screams the garden hose. Again, you can see very clearly on that chart where we changed behavior, we didn't process anything, and things collapsed. Now that we are opening that back up, we're flushing out the junk. And now, if I were to make a prediction, my prediction, not yours, because you're just data, I'm the prediction guy, that red peak, which has already rolled over, will continue to roll over because there's only so much junk that was held back during that dip. And now we're just flushing the system, which, again, let me be clear, is a good thing. I do not believe in external interference. Foreclosures are part of the process. When life happens, it's okay. And then to my investor friends, this is why I'm telling you to market to NODs, notice of defaults, because again, there will be a small window where we have an excess or a rush of inventory that needs to be foreclosed. So go get it when it's there.
And these FHA, a lot of these are 3% down, many of them lower income. The bit of subprime that still exists, it's in this pocket. But one thing that's interesting, remember this line here, right? And then remember the GSE, because this one's, this is the bulk of mortgages right down here, the GSE ones. Now I'm going to go back up to the credit card numbers. See how credit card and auto is above 2019 levels, and then mortgage and HELOC well below. Now I'm going to go up to this one. See how they, see that credit card up there? Now look at the FHA. I think it's that bottom third of the consumers is really, when you go through not just the housing data, you go through a lot of this other economic data. I think they're getting pinched. And I think that they're probably in the pull of the part of the labor market that's been getting squeezed a bit more.
No, I think what you're highlighting now that we've had a couple of years of these data charts is you are seeing the lower end of what's often called the K-shaped economy, showing signs of distress. And I think it's fair to say we've all known it's happening, but now it's been happening long enough. It's showing up in the charts. And yeah, I think you're onto something. This is a sign that the lower end of the K is truly struggling.
Well, look at this deviation between FHA right here to the GSE, right? It's this distance, right? Now here, it's this distance. Right?
Exactly. That's the K-shaped. Correct.
And we should point out that back in the before the bust period, the other part of mortgages was a huge market.
Yeah, what was called, at least in my world, Alt A. Part of the market, which really does not exist today. Was where a lot of the sins were committed. Yes.
And so other today is just not as big of a pool as it used to be back then. Yeah. And then here's where you can look at a map of where there is more FHA mortgages.
I did not realize it, because again, we've heard a lot about the South, or what I call the smile. the bottom part of the country. And I did not realize it was so concentrated. Look at that.
Yeah. And a lot of builders too. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
And there was also, give me a second.
This is Lance being Lance.
Data.
I love it.
Can you see my screen?
We can, yes.
Okay. So the
Wow.
non-residents, including H-1B visa holders, they can no longer access FHA mortgages.
So guess what happened? It fell off a cliff.
Yeah. This was another squeeze that happened in that market where.
No, exactly. Yeah. It just squeezed the market. Yep.
And a really big run up in this segment of the market. And then it just completely was gone overnight.
Collapse. Yeah. That's cool.
Anything else that we want to go over?
No, I think you've been doing great. Again, folks, it is accurate. It is an accurate statement to say foreclosures are up 500% from Q4 of 2021 to Q4 of 2025. That is a factual statement. Hopefully by now we've highlighted for you, it's not even back to 2019. In fact, it's 18% below. Lance has gone the extra mile and educated you on 90-day delinquencies, or often what's called NODs, notice of defaults, and he's gone the extra mile to give you 30 days plus look at credit cards, student loans, HELOCs. This is why he is housing. And Lance, you're going to be at the ORAD event this weekend. We appreciate you coming out. We know you don't have to do it, but we look forward to seeing you on stage Sunday morning. What are your closing thoughts and where can they find you?
Yeah. Housing. Always so much going on. If you want to follow my work, go to ResiClubAnalytics.com. Go there, put in your email, get signed up for my email list. I have a free email list as well. You get a few articles per week. And my last thought as we head into the year, I think that, it's going to be another year of strained levels of turnover. I think it's potential that it could start to ease up a little bit as we go into the year. But when you look at all of the data right now, it's kind of set up for what you would think of as kind of a boringish year, but that's a good year for housing.
Yes,
we need a little bit of boring.
We need boring.
And so if we can, have it to where house prices are really close to zero on a nationally aggregated level and incomes can inch up a little bit more, we're going to get closer to having, affordability improve a bit more. Because we are still in this affordability strained environment. But the longer we kind of stay where we've gotten to these past 12 months, these past 16 months, the more healing that will happen for housing.
Folks, unfortunately, it's the answer I gave you years ago. The only way to fix this, unfortunately, is time. We are going to be flat on prices for more years than you would like. We're going to have mortgage rates dip a little bit, but the really heavy hitter is going to be wage growth higher than home prices, which will just slowly make affordability better. Lance, you're amazing. Safe travels.
Thank you, Zuber.